behind our castle walls. Fast forward to the siren in the distance, getting closer by the minute. Will you stand and answer to the call? Burn like a fire, willful and wild. This is the night that you were made for. Don't close your eyes, safer to stare into the sun than to turn away from what you could become. This was once a perfect symphony, soft and steady like a heartbeat. But these notes turn dissonant and sour, getting violently devoured. So will you stand or let the curtain fall? Burn like a fire, willful and wild. This is the night that you were made for. Don't close your eyes, safer to stare into the sun than to turn away from what you could become. The time has come to stand and fight for what you believe, for what you believe. The dark will fall and we will rise. Like a fire, willful and wild. This is the night you were made for. Burn like a fire. This is the night that you were made for. Don't close your eyes, safer to stare into the sun than to turn away from what you could be. The time has come to stand and fight, deconstruct, reignite. Safer to stare into the sun than to turn away from what you could become.
With just a couple more rounds to go before we begin the playoffs, the tensions are high in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. A string of first-time winners this season and a solid number of winners outside of the top 25 in points are looking for more redemption as we go racing at still relatively newly configured Atlanta Motor Speedway and a hybrid super speedway intermediate track. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth tonight is Dylan Coyle. And Dylan, you're just coming back from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I've been to the Atlanta Motor Speedway twice in a not NASCAR fashion, but we're both familiar with this racetrack. And tonight, these drivers, 38 strong, by the way, are going to go racing on these high banks.
Yeah, very familiar with this racetrack. Just was there on Saturday for, of course, my Colic Racing team. Don't ask me about how I feel about the way that race ended, but at least our 16 machine got the pole for the Xfinity race. This track is definitely capable of getting slick and having some speed scrubbed off into the corners. It is a super speedway, right? But at the same time, you sometimes have to scrub off some speed in the corners. It's kind of like you said, it's that exact intermediate super speedway hybrid, and I think it's probably the most interesting choice that SMI has made to a racetrack in recent years in terms of reconfiguring it. It took till this weekend to sell me on this track. on this configuration, because I really love the old surface of Atlanta Motor Speedway, but this unique challenge of the narrowness of the track surface, along with high speeds and close quarters action, is just so much fun.
Like you mentioned, that unique challenge that this track provides is one that you can't get at any other racetrack. And we take a look at the rest of the schedule for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series in 2023. You've got New Hampshire coming up next week, then Pocono, then a week off before we go back to Michigan for more racing on those high banks, then another road course in Watkins Glen, Daytona, before we begin the playoffs with Darlington, Kansas, Bristol, Texas, Dega, the Charlotte Roval, Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, before the finale in Phoenix. And oh, by the way, that playoff stretch there is going to be 10 straight weeks of action when we crown our champion for 2023. And speaking of crowning a champion, Dylan, the points around that cut line honestly are not as close as I think we were anticipating. I mean, look at the win column. A lot of different winners this season. Only Acknell Phillip and Matt Danson have been able to get multiple wins. There's 3 drivers that are currently underneath the top 25, so their wins not counting towards the playoffs yet. However, we look at that cut line, it's 21 points separating Bradley Burke and Brandon Fetterplace. That is nothing that Brandon Fetterplace can't handle, but it's also a considerable gap with the amount of rounds we have left before the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a massive gap as well, and it's an interesting point you bring up that, of course, you got to finish in the top 25 to get a eligible win to make the playoffs. It's different than what NASCAR does in the real world starting this year, where you don't even have to be top 30, top 20 in the points. You just got to win and be a full-time driver. Here, it's just top 25 in points, which brings up an interesting conundrum. I think Andrew Farina said he is not going to want to be eligible for the playoffs. He is currently 27th in the point standings with a win. I don't think he's going to be eligible. I think he's just taken his name out of the consideration for it. But David Cobb, currently 31st, he's close to getting, in terms of points, into the top 25. He's got a win as well with 8 starts on the year. I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting as we see this season start to wind down and see a scrape of the wall. That's definitely going to scrub off a lot more speed than the 26 car was anticipating.
Those other 2 drivers underneath the top 25, you just mentioned Farinaj and Call, but Kevin King also underneath that. We see him again in the field tonight, but 47th, focusing on the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I wouldn't expect a whole lot from Kevin King. And we're looking at Landon Mills finish out his qualifying laps here. And Landon Mills was underneath that top 25 when he got his win at the Nashville Super Speedway. Well, now he is back within that top 25, sitting 23rd. That win now counts. Now he has to keep that spot. And same thing with Esteban Rodriguez, winner from this season. He needs to hold on to his top 25 spot. He sits 22nd with his win this season. There's a couple of more seconds rounding out in qualifying. Sam Nieto done with his 2 laps. He parks it into the pit lane. We take a look at the Altus Esports number 38 of Matt Danson. 2 wins on the season so far for Danson. Looking for another one and looking for another oval win as well, Dylan, which honestly is few and far between for Matt Danson in the past. Nowadays, not so much.
Yeah, he's definitely an example of a road course driver who has started to really improve on the oval side. And are you really surprised, though, right? Matt Danson, he can adapt very well, and it hasn't taken him too long to get back up to speed on the ovals. But that's it for qualifying. And Steve Tucker, he's going to be on the pole of this Super Speedway Intermediate Hybrid.
Pole position for Steve Tucker, first of the year for him, and looking for some much needed points as he sits underneath the cut line by a good solid margin. So we'll just talk about this race for a moment and talk about who we think is going to run up front. And our colleague Terry Radford, first of all, good luck to him running the commentating the World of Outlaws late model championship series, broadcasting tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. But he predicted Tom Wetmore to walk away with the win. Dylan, I can't disagree with him, but I know we've got some differing thoughts.
I mean, it's a super speedway. I think that any
throw a dart, you'll find somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I will say super speedway racing does require some talent, some skill. Absolutely. That's why you see the same drivers typically at the front of the field, time in and time out. I mean, Brad Keselowski, for example, the Cup race last night, he's very consistently running up front lately in those Cup races. He's been solid, been strong there. So it does take some understanding of the way the air flows around the cars, around the packs. Atlanta is really difficult to go anywhere more than 2 wide. If you go 3 wide, it gets really hairy, and you got to worry about that side draft as well. Will we see a lot of calamity in this race? I think that's a guarantee.
Well, let's take a look at how they're going to line up when we go racing tonight from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. And on that pole position, we mentioned it, the 00 of Steve Tucker. He'll lead the field of the green flag with Agno Phillip, championship leader, to his outside. Brandon Fetter plays Sam Nieto, going to share that second row. Michael Johnson and Grant Davis will round out the top 6.
Continuing it down the field, Thomas George and Nick Mara. Hey, Nick, just hung out with him in Chicago a couple weeks ago. Alexander Light and Jaron Wymaster round out the top 10. Brandon Bowie and Eric Papineau in your front 6 rows.
Back from there, Gregory Shaw will start 13th. Minotzi Major is in 14th. Eric Stanford, Carl Puller 15th and 16th. Chris Treppa, Ross Cato rounding out the top 18.
William Schmidt and Kevin King, the top 20. Seth DeMerchant, Michael Araya in row 11 with Sean Kalis and Andrew Payne, a curious name that we have not seen race in any RSR competition at all, ever.
Bradley Burke will start 25th, Cody Harris 26th, Braden Whitaker, Ryan Dunkelberger, Richard Woodruff, and Tom Morano through the top 30. Richard Wolsifer, Mike Kaczynski, Kyle Trudell, Brian Dixon, Matt Danson, Landon Mills, the top 36, with Brett Picari and Steve Durham rounding out the field of drivers as we get ready to go racing tonight. That was your Get Wet Sports starting grid. GetWetSports.com is the world's first digital content library that showcases and celebrates creators of all sizes and backgrounds, including iRacing, military gamers, and women in gaming. Getting listed is free. Find out more at GetWetSports.com and start on your content creation journey today. Getting ready to go racing here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, and what a lot of uncertainty do we have coming into tonight's race. First time pole sitter in Steve Tucker. Can he turn that qualifying luck into race luck and walk away with his first ever RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series win? Well, we're about to find out. He has the reigning champion and the current favorite to be this year's champion, and Agno Phillip to the outside. What are we going to see as we go racing from virtual Atlanta? Pace car into the safety of the pit lane. We're ready to go racing, and we are underway from Atlanta. Very quickly, lead spreading out at the front as Agno Phillip will take the lead. Sam Nieto goes upstairs to lead that outside line. That's Steve Durham down on the bottom, letting the field roar by as we are side by side. High-speed pace laps as they race down the back straightaway.
Yeah, it's all high-speed pace laps right now. They are 2 by 2 all the way to the back of the field. It's really in 27th, 28th place where we see single file racing on the inside line down back.
Back across the line very quickly. These laps are going to trickle on down as they race back into turn number 1 and 2. Grant Davis, second driver on that outside line, and Steve Tucker hasn't gone far from where he started up at the front. He's only one position back in that second line on the inside as Agno Phillip leads the way back through 3 and 4. Nobody stepping out really into 3 wide, but a lot of shuffling around, especially further on back in the field as we take a look at the area around Kevin King. It's not a lot of differing lines right now, Dylan, but it's a lot of drivers just shuffling around because they're trying to figure out where they want to run in these lines and what line is really going to have that advantage.
So last night there was a race in the Precision Racing League, 150 laps around here at Atlanta. Two drivers that I can definitely point out were in that race. There might be more if I'm just missing them, but I know Eric Papineau was in that race, but Landon Mills was as well. Watch out for him. He did not qualify in that race either, and Mills came all the way from the back and ended up with, I think it was a top 5 finish. If not, it was 6th.
That's Mills running right there in P31 at the moment. Good bit down the order, but still a long way to go as we catch the leaders back in 3 and 4. That's Sam Nieto at the front of the field. And I think this year for Sam Nieto, Dylan, definitely has not been the season that he has wanted. Plus 22 to the cut line in 15th, which is kind of a weird spot to see Sam Nieto. Normally he's got a win by now. Normally he's got more of a cushion to the cut line, but 22 points. We mentioned how far that is back for Brandon Fetterplace. I don't think Sam Nieto is looking at 22 points above the cut line saying, oh, I've got a long way before I reach underneath the top 16. He's thinking that is not a lot and very loose footing what he's standing on right now for the playoffs.
Yeah, and Sam Nieto in that Red Bull machine. He's definitely one of those drivers that expects the most out of not just himself, but his fellow competitors as well. He's got probably the most fiery personality on the grid. And if he has a chance to win the race, he's going to take every single chance he can get.
And he is leading that outside line right now. Grant Davis in tow up on the top line. But look who's leading that inside line. How about the Sprite number 82 of Manatzi Major? We're side by side for the race lead off 4. Major looks for the race lead. Still winless in their RSR career. And we've got the first yellow flag of the day out. And I think Landon Mills might have been involved in that one. One car hard into the outside wall. That's Mike Kaczynski, as the first yellow flag of the day is out on the front straightaway.
Yeah, and you'll see it was a pretty big hit once we get to this replay right here. Landon Mills just sees the pack on the outside just slow up. He goes to the outside. I don't think the 42 of Tom Morano knew he was there, and then just that's an incident that happens when all these cars, the accordion effect. Yeah, Morano didn't know he was there, but at the same time, trying to make it 3 wide there. I don't know if that's the smartest move. And then, of course, the 30 is just flailing right there of Mike Kaczynski. They usually try to start in the back just to avoid anything going up front. You can say that that strategy is either smart or, well, dumb. And in this case, it wasn't. It didn't pay off. Of course, sorry to the broadcaster's curse with Landon Mills there.
Let's take a look on board with Brian Dixon in the 03, because it was a hard hit for them as they race down the front straightaway. And you mentioned it, the accordion effect. There's one driver checking up now, 2.
Oh!
Very hard hit to Mike Kaczynski. That's what sent the 30 around, and I would not be shocked if that 03, unfortunately, is going to have a little bit of damage to that front end for the rest of this race. But that now blends us into the first yellow flag. And it should be mentioned that per the rule book, the drivers, if they cause a caution, need to claim said caution. If they don't claim it, then it'll go to admin review and further penalties from there. Safe to assume nobody has claimed it just yet on the track.
I'm not the one in charge of post-race reviews. Of course, that's Evan Soko's job, but it really just looked like a racing incident. I don't think there was much fault to be said right there. I mean, Morano kind of cut across, didn't exactly know that Mills was coming, but Mills also tried to force the issue when maybe it wasn't the right scenario to do that. I don't envy decisions that Evan has to make sometimes, as the pace car just gets ghosted through right there with the lucky dog. I wonder who's doing race control tonight.
It would be the same person that's also punching the buttons here on RaceSpotTV, and that would be one Joshua Lee, who is also your play-by-play commentator tonight. Great night overall to be wearing 3 hats. I normally wear 1, and now I get a second one added on and a third one added on. But everything's fine. Everything's great. Everything will be okay.
I just wanted to choose the easiest role for myself and let Josh just take everything,
Yeah, let me just sit here and just struggle for a little bit, and you're just sitting back, having a drink,
A strong one.
All right. I mean,
no, it's a gallon of water. I'm working on a gallon of water actually right now. We have a motivational gallon water bottle, and
Is it one of those that as you drink, it has like the affirmations as you get lower?
Yes, we are. It is 9:17 p.m. Eastern time. I am at 3 p.m. feeling awesome. 9 p.m. is where it says you did it.
Okay, that was 17 minutes ago, so I think you need to get working.
I think I need to. There's measurements on the back. I've got to. I'm 17 minutes late on 53 fluid ounces of water. I might have to take a momentary break at some point in this broadcast.
I always have my 2 water bottles because in one broadcast a couple of years ago, I only brought one and ended up needing a second, and I never want to have to get up in the middle of the broadcast ever again to go get water. So I always bring 2. For the Off-Road Championship Series, I also have some nice hot tea right beforehand, but wasn't able to sneak it in before this one.
Some chai tea?
No, some nice like throat health tea.
I really wish you would have done the Spider-Verse thing there. Chai tea. You're just saying TT.
Yeah.
Green Flag?
I did see the movie, by the way. So I don't want to act like I didn't see the movie. I did see the movie. So.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, Green Flag and Minotzi Major, not with a great restart there. They're gonna fall.
Oh, they're wrecking. They're wrecking. Gregory Shaw got spun right on the start. They're still wrecking into the infield in 19 as well. Steve Durham saying over the radio, "Why did I get ARCA braked?" They're still wrecking. Richard Wolsifer got spun. What was that?
Eric Stanford was involved in that one, and so was, I think, about 20 other cars. So let's take a look at the replay and see if we can dissect where this even started. It was way up the road. It was mid-pack.
And that should have been it. Right there. That should have been it. And they kept wrecking.
I think that was the 66 of Gregory Shaw where it started around. Let's take a look. Yes, it was contact with Payne behind. That led to him into the wall. Everybody scatters. Drivers getting on the brakes. Other drivers not realizing it. That ends up sending Eric Stanford around and into the grass. I don't know what happened to the other drivers because it was another one of those accordion effect wrecks where just 18 things are happening and the drivers back here had absolutely no idea. Yeah, Stanford tried to avoid it and got hit by another car on the apron.
I mean, in general, Stanford's fine, of course. Like, no damage really right there. So, you know, it's one of those wrecks. Eric Papineau has claimed responsibility as Tom Morano and a few other vehicles take it down pit road for some tires, which I don't know. I don't know about that. To be honest with you, 13 laps in with barely any yellow or any green flag laps in this one. But I think Morano's also got a lot of damage still to repair from that incident with Landon Mills in the first caution. So it all started really when we saw the 82 Sprite machine for Minotzi Major just not get going there.
Yeah, that kind of just completely stacked up that outside line and ended up with one driver making contact with another. Then that leads to a second car and a third car, fourth car, fifth car, and you get the idea as we ended up with a solid bit of vehicles down and into the pit lane that time by. I think a couple of them for damage. A good majority of them might be trying some alternate strategy pitting here on lap number 14 because they are led off by Ross Cato, who looks like a fuel-only stop for the 12. Same thing with the 94 of Agnell Phillip, 4.6 in the box. I think Richard Wolsifer ended up with 9.2, might have taken 2 tires, and everybody else in this grouping, including Burke, Johnson, Dunkelberger, George, Bowie, King, all the way down through Harris, it looks like, all with under 5 seconds in the box, grabbing fuel only, possibly setting up for the latter stages of this race, which I think, Dylan, we're both in agreement, probably going to have cautions associated with it. So not like drivers are trying to plan for a long green flag run to the end. They're planning on, hey, I'm going to have a good amount of time to save fuel. What can I do now to help me out later in that fuel saving?
The longest I've seen someone at Atlanta in the Cup car in sim run with a couple cautions was around 90 laps, which is 135 miles, which is a lot. But you also have to figure you're feathering the throttle a lot in the draft as well. So I don't know if we'll see the necessity for a stint that long. But top it off on fuel, it gives you some more legs to stretch later on when it comes to making a call whether to stay out or go in at any specific point. What do you think about these two drivers on the front row with Sam Nieto and Grant Davis? Both really, really good dudes. Actually, I met both of them last year at Bristol in September. Grant goes to a lot of the Talladega races, but had a good time. They're friends with each other, and maybe not friends right now.
I wouldn't call them friends right now, lining up side by side on the front row, but you never know as they go through turn 3 and 4, getting ready to go back to racing under the green flag.
Is Sam friends with anyone on the track?
No, not on the track. No way. We were just talking pre-race about if iRacing added rain and you could stop the race after halfway due to the rain, that Sam Nieto would not be a fan of such an addition.
This is true. He will be a fan of leading the field to green on the outside row, and he gets that jump. We're back underway.
This time it's a cleaner restart on that outside line as Nieto pulls down to cover off the 24 Grant Davis. Racing through 1 and 2. Everybody's still clean. There's a bit of a disconnection as well. Front pack pulls away. Back in the field, that second group now starting to get up to full song as they race their way down the back straightaway. Nieto leading, now going back to the outside. Exactly where he was before the duo of cautions put us to lap 16.
I do love the phrase duo of cautions. You think it'll go to a trio?
Yeah, I mean, we're already better off than we were in the last grouping, which is 1 lap down. And Minazzi Major with a big move to the inside.
Hey, I think that's a great move. The inside line is a little bit disconnected right now, but there are some cars who could go down there and stay down there and get this line sorted. They're around half the size of the front outside line right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be entirely slower. Caution is out as we have a wreck, the 18. Oh, man.
Dunkelberger, Kaczynski involved in it again. I think Thomas George might have gotten a piece. That is Richard Wolsifer on the apron as well. And that is caution number 3 of the night. Lap number 17. Or lap number 18, excuse me. Let's see how this had started. Dunkelberg with a lot of damage on that number 18. Assuming it started somewhere around him. And this is that second grouping I was talking about. Side by side. And Dunkelberger went to the inside. Was that a touch from Wolsifer? Or was that Wolsifer trying to go 3 wide where there was definitely no opening?
You're listening to the radio comms right now, aren't you, Josh?
They're pretty muted, but I do have them on. I can't see it.
Did you hear maniacal laughter right there?
I don't think I did.
Matt Danson.
I need to turn them up a little bit more. They won't go onto the stream. I have it routed. So I need
Watch Matt Danson's run. Watch Matt Danson's run.
Oh, there it goes.
A little push and a little... I mean, it's nothing he did wrong, maybe a little bit too aggressive, but oh goodness, we are 3 cautions in, just a handful of laps into this race, not even 30 miles into this. So we can see this run from Danson. He's running on the outside right now, 29 right in front, 29 goes up, Danson swap over to the inside. Look at this run. He does not get off the
checked up.
They did check up big time, but he also didn't take his foot off the throttle as well, so it was a combination of both.
And that led to a lot of beating and banging down on that inside line. Here's another look.
Rain's coming.
We're getting it added mid-broadcast. Everybody rotate your iRacings. Go, go.
Rain's coming right now. Get moving. We're racing to lap 65.
Also, unsurprisingly, not shocked that nobody has claimed that caution yet. Especially if that maniacal laughter was from the Australian himself.
Steve Tucker puts in the chat, laughs in
that's what I was
referencing. Oh, too funny, but Yeah, again, I feel like that's another another one where I can't necessarily say that was any one driver's fault. Maybe, you know, a little bit more consideration to make sure that doesn't happen from all the drivers involved. But again, it's hard to place fault.
So lights went out on the pace car and then turned back on. So we're not going green this time by. I'm wondering the reason for why. There's a lot of drivers into the pit lane and a solid amount of drivers that are grabbing service in the pit lane. A couple of drivers up to their 5th time down pit road, if my data is correct. Michael Johnson, Thomas George, Brandon Bowie, all of them reaching high numbers of time spent in the pit lane. Cody Harris, I'm seeing 3 times down into the pit lane so far. The number of drivers that have yet to pit in this race now is less than the amount of drivers that have pit in this race, with only 3 cautions on the night so far and only 20 laps completed.
Only.
I said only.
I know. You said that's what I'm saying. Only. We're 20 laps in and we have 3 cautions. I don't know. The aggression levels, we know this field to be very aggressive at times, and maybe it would be smart to just calm it down just a little bit. Just try and pace. Try to get some laps on these tires. Try to see what happens. I mean, heck, I don't even know if we keep going at the rate we're going at, these cautions are going to save so much fuel for these drivers, these teams, and we're at 110 laps to go, which also equates to 165 miles.
So because we did reach 1 to go last time by and now reach 1 to go again behind the official iRacing pace car, nobody has claimed that caution. It will go down as unclaimed. Eric Papanow, the claim of the last caution on lap number 12 and first caution on lap 8, also going unclaimed tonight. Grant Davis and Sam Nieto, rinse and repeat of the last restart. Nieto on the outside, Davis on the inside with Major and Tucker on that second row. How about Jaron Winemaster sitting back there in 5th? Nicholas Mara, Brandon Fetterplace. We talked about how good of a run he needs to have in the last couple of races before the playoffs if he wants a fight at the championship. Michael O'Reilly is up here in the top 10. Alexander Light, Carl Pooler, new face. Chris Treppa is going to restart in 11th, or 12th, excuse me. But the drivers that we're used to seeing, Ross Cato, Eric Papanow, Agnell Phillip, Kevin King, they're all almost outside the top 20 or outside the top 20. There's a lot of unfamiliar names and unfamiliarity up at the front as we get ready to go back to racing, field pacing through 4.
We are hoping that we get a handful of green flag laps here as these drivers pace around this 1.5 mile. Intermediate super speedway hybrid, green flag back out in the air. Josh, and look at Sam getting a good jump right there, not too far in front, comes down to the inside. I think that's going to be the spot, the line he decides to take.
That's another good restart from Sam Nieto. He has now done pretty much every restart to perfection as Davis looks high. He now covers off that spot. Major going to join him up on the top side. 3 wide as Jaron Winemaster is going to get put through what Darrell Waltrip calls the
way too
hole on the inside.
Way too aggressive as we see that 3 wide battling going on. All these cars just trying to shuffle their way through the pack, going down to the inside, to the outside, swapping positions. It's just, it has the feeling of the race is about to end, not the feeling of we still have a lot of track time still before the end of this race, before the checkered flag flies. We're still seeing 3 wide action with Chris Treppa in the middle of Michael Loraya, and who is that as well? The 79 machine of William Schmidt. This is just craziness, but leading that lap is Brandon Fetterplace. Alexander Light in behind, Nieto stuck on the outside, a little bit of a wiggle.
How about Fetter Place to the front? How about Alexander Light to second place? How about Seth DeMerchant going to join the field up here? That's Bradley Burke on the inside line as well in the 95. Racing through turns 3 and 4. That outside line lost a ton of momentum, and what worked in the opening run of this race on the outside just kind of bit Sam Nieto there, as now DeMerchant looks to the outside, barely covering off the spot of that Ford Mustang.
I'll tell you what, a lot of these drivers, they're not buying themselves any favors the longer this race goes on. The earlier they make these moves, look at that, some moves being made down below the red and white line separating the backstretch from the apron underneath. This is just wild racing. They're keeping it together. They're keeping it clean for now. Just how long can they do that?
I want to talk about something I heard pre-race in the practice, and it was from a driver. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch their name over in the voice chat, but they essentially said tandem drafting is possible, but with the speed you're carrying around this 1.5 mile track, with how narrow this track is, with how much grip it really doesn't have compared to the other super speedways, it's almost not worth it. You get a lot of speed out of the tandem draft.
Nieto!
Not worth it, as Nieto goes 3 wide. DeMerchant finds a spot on the inside.
Man, oh man, they're not letting you get a word in. Bradley Burke goes to the outside, tried to go back down to the inside, couldn't. DeMerchant goes up high, tried to make a third lane work, does not. Nieto gets blocked by DeMerchant. Oh man, he's not going to be happy about this. This is aggressive. They're not racing for stage points. They're not racing for the win right now, but they're certainly acting like it.
Do you think, Dylan, it's possible they're trying to see what they can do, make these moves? We're a fixed setup league at RealSimRacing, and I think they're trying to figure out what they can even do with these cars.
Yeah, I think they're trying to find the limits right now as we're 3 wide in the second lane and second row back of cars. This is just absolutely wild. Listen, first of all, in RSR, all things are possible, so jot that down. Benazzi Major in the Sprite machine trying to go down to the bottom. He leads that inside line.
On board with Major as he races off of turn 4. This is looking to be one of Benazzi Major's best finishes if he can keep this up. And Nieto gets a big run on Seth DeMerchant right to the outside of the 55. And now Nieto's right up on the outside wall. DeMerchant trying to get him back in line, and he will by just a couple of inches. Loose off of 2 goes Nieto, but he'll be in second place, chasing down Bradley Burke with a big head of steam into 3.
If I am any of the drivers who is just behind this wild pack of cars, I am backing out and trying to take 2 drivers with me because this is just way too intense for my liking. But the top 32 are within 3 seconds of the leader. We're 3 wide for second, for third, for fourth, for fifth. I mean, the top 5 is just 1 car length from front to back between each other. This is absolutely wild. The 40 gets into the wall, almost went 4 wide. He's back into the wall. Nick Mara, he's gonna have to get it off the wall. He unstaples himself and he falls way back on the outside line. And honestly, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. We go back to the front of the pack. Nieto in behind the 95 of Bradley Burke. Benazzi Major in the inside line. Oh, Josh, this is scary.
We went from 1 line being dominant to 3 wide in a couple of points, and now we're back to those high-speed pace laps that we had a little bit earlier on in this race. 100 laps to go. It'll be 99 when they cross the stripe. It's Major and Burke side by side for the race lead. And it's a good time to mention Bradley Burke still waiting on win number 1. A good season for him so far, but he's another one of those drivers, Dylan, that's not safe to the cut line by that much. I think he's also at 22 points, the exact same as Sam Nieto. He needs a good night here tonight if he wants to stay above that top 16.
Landon Mills, by the way, has made his way up to right in the middle of this pack. He's 20th place right now on the outside line. So that damage was not detrimental to him, to his race. Tom Hirano is 5 laps down, who was involved in that. 33 cars are on the lead lap. Matt Danson way back. Danson's running pretty much 17, 18 seconds, 20 seconds now off the pace. He's hoping that they wreck before they catch up to him and potentially put him a lap down.
Outside line getting that run again as they race back through turn 1. Bradley Burke, Sam Nieto towed up on that outside line. That's Davis and DeMerchant back from there. Michael Laraya going to be the 5th driver on that outside line. Inside line is a bit of a gang of misfits right now. And as Dunkelberger lets the field roar past, that's Major. That's Tucker. That is the 34 also on the inside of Brandon Fetter Place. Carl Poehler's back there as well. And how about Richard Woodruff rounding out the 5 drivers on the inside? All drivers, mind you, Dylan, that are still looking for race wins number 1 on the season. They've all got a pretty good shot if they keep the speed up that they've got right now.
Listen, if you're in the top 25 and you get 1 win, you're practically locked in to the RSR playoffs. Who wouldn't want to go for that? Who wouldn't want to put themselves in the best position possible as we get to lap 36 of 130 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway? All these drivers fighting tooth and nail for every single possible spot they can get. Some wiggles further back in the pack, but it's starting to string back out on the outside line. Will it stay that way?
Side by side, still through the majority of the field as Burke in the lead. Now going to gain himself a little bit of a gap to the inside line of Major. Going to put down 36 laps as we go on to lap 37. And the field has not calmed down really since we...
Oh, there's a car going down to the apron. William Schmidt goes down into the apron. Almost got completely turned around. Keeps it going straight. An apology was said over the radio. He said not a problem at all. And honestly, if I'm Schmidt, I'm not too upset about it.
He did save himself from possibly going out of this race as the field will go back to the start-finish line. Now we are about 5 cars clear on the outside line as that inside line completely loses its entire head of steam. I mean, it's like a train derailing off the tracks as they lose just a ton of momentum. And they had a ton of cars really packed up on that inside line. Look at it now. It's still about 10 cars strong, Dylan, but look at that outside line. It's about 20 cars strong right now, and not much else that bottom line can do unless just try and to get back that momentum they already had.
The one thing I can say, though, is the way these cars, these next-gen Cup cars, are built in terms of just sucking right back up to the cars in front of them. It's almost a detriment. Actually, I'd say it's almost an aid to have around 10 car lengths in between you and the cars in front. It gives you a big head of steam, and you get really quick. I mean, look at Matt Danson when that caution just came out around 25 laps ago. That's exactly what happened, right? He had a huge head of steam, a little bit too much of a head of steam, while cars started to accordion in front. So I think this inside line is starting to get reconnected. I mean, you can already see they're getting reconnected a little bit, split up, but they're getting right back to it now. The outside line is currently consisting of the top 6. Manazzi Major sits in 6th place right now, fighting for 6, I should say, with Michael Laraya in tow, as well as Alexander Light. All these cars just fighting. Look at the move through the middle, the 29 of Kevin King, the Coca-Cola e-NASCAR driver, trying to make it work. Fuller comes down, almost cuts him off, and almost sends both of them flying. They're 3 wide here.
That's a bold move from the veteran, but he is going to gain a lot of help in that middle line. Kevin King wants to make up spots, and Poehler looking to join him in the middle. That's Landon Mills right up to the back bumper of the 29. So we're still 3 wide. That's Widemaster on the outside, and Kevin King had an opening on the inside, saw a slower Major in front of him, didn't take it. He'll take it now as he goes to the inside, covers off the 82, and that is Kevin King now inside the top 10, back up to P7. And just like that, Dylan, 3 wide has calmed back down into 2 by 2, except for the string of about 7 cars strong leading the outside charge.
I was driving into work today, Josh, and there was a truck in front of me that had a bunch of these 20-foot-long white streamers you'd see at a parade, and it fell off the truck. I ran right over it, and at 70 miles per hour, I had a tail, a long 10-car length string. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now at Atlanta Motor Speedway. These cars are just strung out together in line, and it's hard to make a move.
What a callback to something that happened this morning.
I don't even remember what I did, this afternoon.
Surprisingly is a good analogy to use here and makes sense for the situation as Bradley Burke runs into a Danson, and that is going to push Kevin King in the 29 now to the race lead as a now lapped down Matt Danson is going to blend himself into this lead group and I think make that 95 of Bradley Burke. Is just slightly annoyed that he's now having to deal with a slower machine in front of him, giving up the race lead.
Something's got to give here. Something's got to give. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but these drivers are just not being patient enough. Look at the move down the inside to Merchant. No way he's making it work. He pushes Nieto a little bit up. He forces the third line. He gets right in front of Nieto, cuts him off. Nieto has been cut off multiple times in this race. I'd be upset if I was him, but hey, that's plate racing.
Want to know the difference between the plate racing at Daytona and Talladega versus the Atlanta Motor Speedway? You can't make runs like that happen at Daytona and Talladega. They develop so much slower, even in these next gens. Compared to Atlanta, the runs you get at Daytona and Talladega, they mature. They almost have a beginning, a middle, and an end to them. Here, you have a run, you either take it or you hit the brakes and stack up everybody behind you.
Well, I think that's because of the speeds they're going at, right? The backstretch, the corners, they aren't as wide. They aren't as banked necessarily as Daytona, as Talladega. So you will scrub speed. I mean, the maximum speed you'll probably get in the draft is 185, maybe if you're lucky and have a huge head of steam, 190 miles per hour. But you have to have a bunch of free space in front of you before you get to the other car. You're usually scrubbing off speed, going 170, 175 in the corners. So RPMs are definitely, they're not as high. They're not stalling out as much, right? So you do have miles per hour to give. You do have speed to gain as you go up through gear number 5 here at Atlanta.
Back pretty much 1 and 2.
You're pretty much topping off at Daytona and Talladega in the draft, and it's hard to go 210 when you can top off at 200. It's easy to go 185 when you're coming off the corners at 170 here.
Very, very true, and that's how these runs develop, and I mentioned you have to take them quick. That's exactly what Seth DeMerchant did, and worked for the moment. Now has kind of settled himself back into P7, mainly because that inside line has had such a resurgence. Kevin King led that charge with Minazzi Major, Steve Tucker, Brandon Fetterplace, and Andrew Payne in tow. It's almost like he said, Dylan, hey, I'm the veteran of RealSimRacing. I'm the veteran of eNASCAR. Let me go up to the front. Let me lead you young boys up to the front of the pack.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin King, what, 1 race, 1 win this year? Looking for a second?
He would have 100% win percentage in 2023.
I mean, he does already. Anything other than a win takes the win percentage down.
Down the back straightaway with King leading the way. Now Bradley Burke is kind of shaked off the 38 of Matt Danson. There's an update on where Danson is. They've successfully shuffled him back to the tail end of this grouping, but still within the parameters of this pack. And we can look a little bit further, and Alexander Light is at the tail end of this grouping. There's the next grouping. That's Landon Mills with Eric Papineau, Ross Cato, Gregory Shaw, and more, as this entire group continues their charge, trying to catch up to that lead group. And you see Cody Harris up there at the moment. He is closer to the tail end of this group as he almost makes contact with Richard Woodruff, and I think this is a perfect time to check in with our resident Ohio State fan.
Why? Why do we have to do that? We don't need to see this Ohio State-ness right now. We really don't.
I would put it full screen, but that would then take out the sim audio, and I don't think the viewers would really enjoy that.
Fair enough. Hey, Cody Harris doing a great job with that deep dish Fanatec NASCAR branded wheel. I'm going to give you a bold prediction right now. The next caution is going to come between the 19 and the 56 in the back of the pack, because they are squirrely and they are fighting and they are hitting each other. They're not happy about something with each other. I mean, I know we're going off the lead pack, but they keep just squeezing each other as far as they can. Look at the 56 and look at the 43 just slide up ever so slightly. Am I seeing things?
You're not. I'm looking at what you're looking at, and I would not be shocked either if the next wreck comes from around that spot. But we're back to 2x2 as Bradley Burke, with help from DeMerchant, with help from Nieto, trying to get back to the race lead. There's that big run I talked about. There's that help, that tandem draft I talked about. And there's Bradley Burke back to the top 5, side by side with a 0-0 of Tucker for 3rd.
What great racing we have right now. We're 2x2. Calm down. We're 2x2. Until, of course, the next 3-wide move comes from somebody getting a big run on the top 2 in this run right now with King and Monazzi Major. Look at the run that Seth Merchant is giving to Bradley Burke on the outside. Stalled out.
To the back straightaway, and you mentioned it stalling out. It really did. And there's DeMerchant right back to the back bumper, trying to give him a shove into 3. Does not work out. Major and King getting kind of spread out from that group. And at Daytona and Talladega, if you get too much of a run, you get too far out in front, almost a guarantee you're going to be swallowed by the pack. I don't think that's necessarily true here. Yes, they're going to get a great run. Yes, they're going to have much more speed, but I think it's a lot more manageable to manage that huge gap out in front than it is at Daytona or Talladega.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't had a full race in sim at Atlanta on the super speedway to really be able to feel it for myself. It's easy to understand that runs are coming from everywhere. If you get single file, you're really going to be in good shape. I still think that it's so hard to stay out in front if the drivers are trying to make it past you. I mean, right now, Monazzi Major is not necessarily trying to pass Kevin King right now. I think he's just fine slotting in behind, and I wonder if Steve Tucker will be the same. Look, Major had a run, could have went down the inside, could have went around the outside, and decided to stay there. So, I don't know. I feel like it can change on a dime. It can change in an instant, depending on what second, third, fourth place wants to do with you in first. How about a move from 5th place, Andrew Payne? Look at him getting involved in this race right now. He's making his way as the lead of the outside line, but stalls out very quickly.
How about Andrew Payne to the front? First ever Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series start, and he is now trying to contend for a race win. I go back to this kind of straggled group of drivers closer to the back, and Gregory Shaw, Brian Dixon shuffling around positions a little bit too quick. I honestly thought they were starting to wreck, but they weren't, so we'll hop back up to the front. Now 2x2 throughout this entire grouping as they catch up to Major, catch up to King at the front of the pack. Steve Tucker back to the back bumper of the 82 as Andrew Payne trying to roar by on the outside, loses that help, run stalls out through the middle of 1 and 2.
Really good racing right here. I think it's a good time to talk about track temperature. It's gone down so much since the cloud coverage has come in sim over the track. It was 130 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see it on your screen right now, 111 degrees Fahrenheit. Still hot, still boiling, but not nearly as hot as it was. I'll tell you what, on Saturday at the track, in real life, when it was sunny, it was 142 degrees on pit road before the Xfinity Series cars went on their qualifying runs. Immediately when clouds came overhead, it dropped to 129 degrees. I'm sure it dropped even more right after that. So track temperature, it could change drastically, and the cloud coverage is definitely helping the track temperature stay relatively down. It's mostly cloudy, 87 degrees ambient temperature.
And also just working our way through roughly about 2:47 in sim time. Of course, double time acceleration multiplier here in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. And good time to mention as well, drivers coming into tonight have 3 full sets of Goodyear tires that they can use throughout tonight's race. And we still do have that 3 overtime attempt rule in effect. I say that because I think that might come into play a little bit further on tonight. So we'll call this foreshadowing, and we'll come back to this moment a little bit later on. But at the front. Still Kevin King, still Manazzi Major, and everybody's been trying to get runs back up to the front, Dylan, but nobody's been able to do it. That duo at the front of Major and King, honestly, I don't think a likely duo that we would have predicted being the dominating force here in the middle portion of this 130 lap race, but here they are at the front of the field.
I mean, King and Major stand for some leaders in certain forms of government, and what else? Are you really surprised that they're at the front?
For Manazzi Major, I'd say yes. And that's
Maybe not for long. Look at that move. Bradley Burke tries to swing down to the inside. That run developed out of nowhere. And Kevin King was quick to get out of the way. He saw that Burke was coming, and he was not stopping.
That's now Burke on the inside line. He'll cover off the 82. DeMerchant now to the back bumper of Kevin King. Two veterans of RSR to the top side now as Burke leads the inside line. And what I was going to mention about Manazzi Major is their best finish of RSR all time is 8th. They've had 2 8th place finishes so far this season, and they're looking for their best finish of their career in Real Sim Racing. They were to finish inside that top 5 tonight. They'll lose a bit of momentum on the inside as now everybody roars by on the outside. Where did Agnell Phillip come from? He is now inside the top 5 as he gets by Bradley Burke by a couple of inches.
The crazy thing is Agnell Phillip started this race in second, and we have not talked pretty much at all about him, but he's right there in 4th place right now. Kevin King has set the Merchant 20th and 21st on the grid, 1st and 2nd as we currently race. That's definitely something to keep an eye out. By the way, race is official if it rains. Wink, wink.
I don't think we're going to get the rain that we're hoping for, but that would make it way more entertaining.
You know, they're racing like it's about to rain any moment now, so I think I'm good. By the way, the top 27 are now just 2 plus seconds within each other. Again, that smaller pack that you were talking about a little bit ago, they're 10 seconds off the pace, just kind of hanging in the back right now. Man, I don't know. This is getting pretty crazy. It's been crazy. Now, if we continue going at this current pace in terms of the color of the flag is right now, then we have to worry about fuel and pit strategy. Now, of course, the last caution was on just around lap 20. They went back to green flag racing on lap 22. Let's just say from lap 20 to make it easy, they could probably go 75 laps, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It's a very rough estimate. And 75 laps from lap 20 is lap 95. So do they come down pit lane around lap 90 to 100, somewhere in that state? Or do they go a little bit earlier to try and cut this stage in half? Do they go for tires? Do they just go for 4? Do they go for right sides? There's a lot of questions, and a lot of it depends if we stay green flag racing right now. We have done for the last 48 laps at this point, a really good run right now, but is it going to stay that way?
Top 4 back in a breakaway with King, DeMerchant, Major, and now Payne. Steve Tucker gonna clear for Bradley Burke. Burke pulls to the inside. I think this is the first time all night we've seen Sam Nieto be a hard charger on the inside line versus the outside. They'll leave Agnell Phillip up to dry with help behind from the 38 of Matt Danson. Remember, Danson is still 1 lap down. He has not gained his lap back, so he is not racing for position among these drivers, but he would be if we were to get a certain color of flag from Barney the Flagman. He would be the free pass.
Barney's traveling all the time. Could you imagine having his travel schedule?
Ugh. It would. I think my travel schedule currently is bad. I think his is worse.
Yeah, I would say his is probably the worst out of anyone. I mean, goodness, The World of Outlaws late model series race that our own Terry Radford is a part of the broadcast team this year. He's there as well. So he's in multiple places at once.
He's on the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series. Is he the only person to appear on every single World Championship broadcast?
Yes. Yes. By the way, as we're talking about Barney the Flagman, this group, this pack, has completely splintered itself. There's no rhyme or reason, and there's really no patterns going on. This is a phase of the race where I think everyone is getting a little bit antsy because they've gotten into a rhythm, and now the rhythm is gone. So where do they go now? Do they try to make some daring moves? Do drivers from the back take advantage of this power vacuum that we currently see at Atlanta Motor Speedway? Look at how fast they go. Oh, man. What is it? Digger cam?
Old
You remember
school
that?
NASCAR on Fox.
Yes, sir.
That was honestly one of the best parts about a race weekend as a nice 5-year-old in 2008.
Yes,
Watching
not a
a
25
Fox
or 24-year-old, I would say the same, but as a 5-year-old, I'd agree.
No, I'd also agree as a 20-year-old that if they brought that back, I'd watch it every week. But I'm just saying, as both a fan
Fair.
of cartoons and
Pitting,
a fan
we're
of NASCAR
pitting.
at the same time, we are pitting, and that is a harsh entry into the pit lane for Sam Nieto. He had to be slowed down by that yellow cone. Was he slowed down? That was a close one.
So they could go another 15 or so laps, I think, but they're splitting it, I think, in half as well. So it's definitely a conversation of what's the right move. Obviously, I cannot see what these drivers or hearing what these drivers are dealing with in terms of how much fuel they've got in the car. We're seeing rights and lefts, 4 tires being put on by most of the pack. I don't think I've seen a single just right side tires being taken. So lots of drivers pitting right now, and the scary thing is if there is a wreck between the time that these drivers are out. Now, if you're one of the drivers in the back of the pack, do you maybe risk it and stay out?
Agnell Phillips not going to risk it. Neither is Cody Harris. Both of them are in. That'll cycle Andrew Payne into the lead. And how about that? Leading his first ever lap in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series in start number 1. Thomas George now to second. That's Brandon Bowie in third. Michael Johnson, Gregory Shaw through the top 5. These are all drivers that have already pit in this race. And a good solid amount of the drivers that you saw just come in also have pitted prior to this round of pit stops, but that number is significantly lower than the amount of drivers that you see right here who have come down pit road, some of them a numerous amount of times.
So I'm not surprised to see strategies differing greatly right now. You know, Thomas George currently the leader of this race. Michael Johnson, Andrew Payne. I mean, these drivers, like we were talking about, have not pit yet. They have not pitted yet. So maybe they stay out until they can't anymore, because to be honest, they're not losing an incredible amount of time changing tires. You don't gain as much time here, or at any super speedway really, when you put on a fresh set of rubber. I mean, again, I know I'm taking it from real world Xfinity Series experience, but there were points where drivers were on the same tires for 112 laps. So it's not necessarily that crazy to theorize that you don't have to come down for tires, because the gap, the advantage, it's really negligible. Will we see that play out the way that we are theoretically talking about? I'm not sure, but there's 50 laps to go, and as we currently stand, the top 12 are on the lead lap. Matt Danson is about to be, well, I don't know, I think Danson's gonna fight tooth and nail to stay on this lead lap. He takes the inside line, the outside line kind of stalls right there. Now, if Danson keeps himself on the lead lap right here, because remember, he's about to go a lap down right now. If a caution were to come out, he would be fine, because he would be in the lead lap. cars, right? But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, I know obviously you know more about this being in race control. Does it go lucky dog and then wave around cars?
It does. It is the free pass driver gets the free pass, I believe, either a lap before or on the same lap that the lead lap cars will have pit lane open. The wave around drivers cannot pit. They have to be between the race leaders and the pace car in order to get waved around to get their lap back. So they would also not be able to come down pit lane during the caution if this gets so late in the run that we end up with a lot of drivers trapped one lap down. But all of those drivers, everybody in the top 10 right now are on the lead lap. Everybody else back from there is one down. They're hoping that these 10 drivers in front of them hit under green before we have a yellow flag, because then we are going to talk about a wild bit of pit strategy with one caution coming out, 10 drivers coming in, and maybe about 20 more staying on the racetrack to get a wave around.
And of course, I mean, I don't think we're going to see any, variation of strategy if a caution did come out within the next 5, 10, 15 laps. If that happens, would you expect to see any drivers stay out and trap everybody who is currently a lap down and trap them a lap down?
Is anybody willing to do that? Does anybody want to do that? As Gregory Schall becomes the next of that top 10 to come into the pits. Brett Pancari, now the last driver on the lead lap, and there goes your race leader, Thomas George, back to the front. Michael Johnson in tow with Brandon Bowie, Ross Cato, Andrew Payne, Brian Dixon, all within this 6-car train. And there you can see a little bit further back, lap down machine of Sean Kalist in the 43, being 2 laps down versus the other drivers around them. Good time to get on board with our bagel bread eating friend, Ross Cato. No meals being eaten here, but he is now in a really good spot under the green flag, P4.
Okay, so I know we're on Ross Cato right now. Do you see what's going on right behind Ross Cato? The 94 and the cars that would be provisionally in the lead have caught up to this group that is currently in the lead. So they're trying to get their lap back in case of a caution. This is getting hairy.
I think Andrew Payne also is coming into the pit lane. He is. So that'll be Payne's pit stop. As there goes Agnell Phillip to the outside. Big head of steam, but covering them off is the leaders. Phillip goes to the inside. George tries to cover him off, but the 94 is just too quick. He's got Cody Harris behind him. They go back to the lead lap. Notably not to the race lead. They have to go a full circuit around one more time if they want to get back to the lead.
But now they're fine because they don't have to come down into the pits in terms of a caution. This would be the group that would retake the lead. Now, right then and there is what we saw was the difference when it came to having four fresh tires, having a set of fresh rubber, because that move was made very quickly from Phillip to go from the outside line going way down low on entry quickly. That was because of the extra grip in the rubber. You don't really have too many situations where you can take advantage of it, but he definitely took advantage of it there. I will say that I probably understated the scrubbing off speed for fresh tires. You could probably scrub off, let's say, 6 miles per hour less in some corners, depending on the situation, which is a lot of time gained. So 4 tires, probably the right move over 2 right sides, but I don't know. I feel like 2 right sides is still a good gamble to take.
And there goes, I believe, the rest of the drivers. Yes, that is the rest of the drivers that were still yet to pit under the green flag. Michael Johnson, Thomas George, Brandon Bowie, Brian Dixon, all into the pit lane. And there goes Agnell Phillip, Cody Harris, and the rest through and back to the race lead. just like that, what could have been a lot of drivers trapped one lap down becomes everybody back on the lead lap. And now the golden question, Dylan, they'll have to go 53 laps in the fuel tank. Can they make it to the end from here with no certain flags from the flag stand?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I can't say for sure, but I think so. And the reason that I'm fairly confident about that is because they pit a lot of these cars that the Agnell Phillips and the Cody Harrises of this field, they pitted what was it, lap 70, so it was around a 50 lap run or so under green flag conditions, knowing they had a 60 lap run to come up, while the other competitors went 70 laps on a single tank of fuel. That middle ground is 60. I think they can make it with ease.
Still got 38 laps to go, and a lot can develop in that 38 laps. We mentioned that we were putting a solid number of cautions on the over-under for tonight. We've had 3 so far, with 38 laps to go. Still have a lot of time to get more yellow flags, and when those yellow flags come out, the stories that are going to develop off of them. Still a lot of time still left in this race, but with Agnell Phillip leading the way, and honestly, not a lot of... It's weird to say. Everybody's stacked up on his back bumper, but only 4 of them are on the lead lap, and there's not enough cars to really get those runs on the outside, make it 3 wide to get by Agnell Phillip. 94 is just kind of riding at the front with knowing that if Harris tries to go to the outside, most likely Nieto's not going to go with him. Nieto tries to go a run, most likely not going to get any help there, and easy to block. It's kind of got a really, really good view out the mirror right now, knowing there's not a lot of places these guys can go.
So you actually bring up an interesting point. This exact same situation happened in the PRL race I mentioned earlier last night, where green flag pit stops happened after a substantial long run, and it strung out literally the top 5. It was the top 6 actually last night, top 5 tonight, separated them from the rest of the field, and they were in a pack, a larger group, with cars fighting for the lucky dog. So this is a very familiar situation to what we saw last night. They're not as organized right now. We're seeing 3 wide action going on in this group just behind the leaders, so that's a little bit uncomfortable with competitors for not just trying to get their lap back, but also win the lucky dog, and there's a yellow out.
Steve Tucker is around and into the outside wall from the pole position to now stranded in turn 4. That brings us to caution number 4 on lap 97. What has happened here? Nobody claiming yet for the yellow flag. Let's take a look at why the 00 and Landon Mills, for that matter, ended up backwards in the outside wall.
You don't push that close. Oh, big hit for Mills, and of course Tucker. You don't push that close in the corners unless you're really squared up against the bumper, probably on the right side. I don't know. That's not the it's not the best shove right there from Mills. You know, you can maybe make that work if you push him in the right rear instead of the left side. The left side just gets him uneasy. Right side kind of pushes him to the left, which is where they're turning.
Pit stops. I was not expecting to talk about pit stops right now, but here we are, Dylan. You agree? I do agree with this, but I can also see why drivers wouldn't go down pit lane, because think of it this way: you're looking at a bunch of cars that are not on the lead lap. At least they weren't on the lead lap. I think 17 at the time of the caution. You've seen the runs that can play through the field. You can see how quickly it is to drop off, but you also see how much speed. I mean, we saw the example of Agnell Phillip, how much more speed he had when he made the move to unlap himself. He was around 7-8 miles per hour quicker. The cars that pitted 22 laps later are now on the lead lap with fresher tires. So why don't you go back down pit lane and retake that advantage
and it's pack racing, right? Like, I don't think you're wrong to stay out, but I think the better call is to go in. Here's the other thing. If we have overtimes and you feel like you're short on fuel, you want to top up, because a 60-lap race could easily turn into 70 laps real quickly with yellows involved as well, which takes you near the limit. I like the move. I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw right side tires taken. I'm not sure if we did see that at all, but we're gonna see wave around cars. We're gonna see lucky dogs. This is an intriguing end to the race.
Still have 32 laps to go, so still a long time to go. And just as quickly as that yellow flag came out, it is going to end with the still relatively new addition to iRacing of shorter super speedway cautions, with everybody coming down pit road. I believe we went to 2 to go when that entire field came down, and now we're to 1 to go, double file down the back straightaway. Love the quick cautions at any track. Can I get quick cautions at every track?
I wish NASCAR could figure that out in real life.
I don't know who to CC on an email to get that
Yeah,
into the real world.
I know all the communications people with NASCAR. I don't know about the actual, officials. I can talk to Wayne, our Xfinity, the Xfinity Series leader, try and get him to, who are you? I'm Dylan. I'm a PR guy. What are you? Why are you trying to have an opinion here? Never mind. Sorry.
Can I get a reenactment of that interaction? I think I need that to happen now.
I'll say, hey, Wayne, I was talking about this on a broadcast in iRacing. This is exactly how it would go. You want to play it out like that? Sure. Green flag back in the air.
Well, quickly, stop talking about this fake scenario and get back to racing, as that's Bradley Burt to the lead. Grant Davis behind. The Nazi Major gonna fall into line on the inside. Chris Treppa, Brandon Better Place, side by side for third, or for fourth, I should say. Steve Tucker lets the field go by on the inside.
In the back of the field. I think that I saw Danson involved. Yes, Danson involved. Dunkelberger involved. 18 laps down.
Matt Danson involved in this one as well. He's still 1 down. By the way, did you try and combine caution and crashing there? I think you said caution.
I love if I said that.
I'm 99% sure you said caution.
Hold on, I'm gonna listen back on the live broadcast. Here's the replay.
You do that as I commentate the replay. So this is around Danson and Dunkelberger, who restarted right next to each other, bumper to bumper, and through 1 and 2. I'm wondering just where this went south. And it was just a touch right there. There was nothing much either driver could have done through the corner. Danson maybe looked to the inside, didn't fully commit, ends up touching, and Danson will claim for that caution. He just puts lol claim into the chat, so that will be an EOL penalty for him, as he claims responsibility for that yellow flag. But back under yellow, lap number 99, that caution came out. We're on to lap number 101.
That was less touching, more full-on mugging right there. By the way, I did say caution or crashin', or what did I say? Caution?
I think caution.
Caution.
I go with caution.
They're caution in the back.
I think you just yelled like you were trying to yell caution,
but
like how you would yell caution if the yellow flag immediately came out. But you'd also yell crashing if they're immediately crashing. You just combined the two into caution. I don't hate it.
Grant Davis is just set over communications. He just called me out, I think. Wonder if Dylan's talking about this. I haven't heard anything they've been talking about on the radio. Apparently some fun is happening on the radio right now. I wish they would continue talking about stuff on the radio.
Normally I'd have it turned up a little bit more, but...
By the way, this is one of the only series that I very consistently see, and, whether this is smart or whether it's not, I love the fact that drivers can express their feelings very consistently on the radio. It's not a quiet radio chatter in RSR, which gives us entertainment and gives us storylines to talk about during the race as well. It's just a lot of fun. Lots of things happening right now.
I would use a lot of descriptive words to describe these drivers, and quiet is not one of them. Take that for what you will in any context.
I don't even know what quiet means, so
yeah, listen, you and me both.
That's true.
Quiet is not in my vocabulary. On the other hand, caution now is.
Yes, it is part of the grammar. It is part of the vocabulary, and I think that we are better off for it. And I would like to accept my Nobel Peace Prize for my contributions to the English language. I'm free tomorrow after 4:30.
Okay.
Eastern time, by the way.
So if anybody needs Dylan Coyle, 4:30 Eastern time, he's all yours.
Yeah, that's when I leave the race shop tomorrow.
Okay, we talked earlier about track temp. And I want to bring it up again, because take a look at that track temp, 111 degrees Fahrenheit, 8-mile-an-hour winds. It's about the same as it was 3:40 p.m. sim time, but honestly, I don't know if it's just me, Dylan, but I'm seeing a lot more cloud cover starting to peek over here at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
So this brings up something interesting. I don't know if we have a compass, but there is a west. The wind is mainly going west at that speed, which at one point it's going to be a headwind. At one point it's going to be, a detriment. I don't know where those points are on the track.
I am also unsure if we have anything to tell which direction is which, except for the real world. So,
I'm gonna look it up.
All right, you look up the compass directions of Atlanta Motor Speedway while we go back to racing. And side by side at the front, Burke will take the early lead. Davis now falls behind, with Treppa now leading the outside line. What a run for the first-time driver in the 50 of Chris Treppa to be, right now, contending for the race win, with Agnell Phillip right behind. 2x2. They are squirrely through the majority of this field as they race their way back through 3 and 4.
It is almost pushing right up against the drivers as they go down the backstretch, so they're facing 9 miles per hour of wind head on. The car in front is going to be just, going way slower than the cars in behind. That's a huge disadvantage to the lead car in any pack. That means that when the cars just kind of suck up to the rear bumper, they're going to have to give a big run. Agnell Phillip goes down the inside, but he's stalled out immediately right there. I think that wind is playing a part.
This is a lot of cars within not a lot of real estate. 25 to go. Treppa looks to the middle. That's a bold move from a first-time driver, but it's gonna stick. Harris on the outside, King on the inside, Treppa in the middle. Not a lot of help. Sees the 24 up in front, but he is going to now fall back. Johnson, Lariah, and more are gonna meet him a little bit further on through.
Well, Treppa might be short for trepidation because he's got none of it right now. He is just going, and no fear in the world, getting loose right underneath Treppa, though. Couldn't quite see who that was. I think, goodness, I don't, things are happening quickly. Oh, still sliding in the apron.
Brandon Fetterplace gets loose down on that white and red line, denoting the boundaries here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Most notably, not a double yellow line, so that is in play. They can race down that apron. You'll see them race on the apron here on the front straightaway. With time running out, the sun peeks back through the clouds, and we're looking to crown a race winner from Atlanta into turns 1 and 2. Kevin King leads the way, DeMerchant in tow. Burke looks to the inside. He'll see Agnell Phillip leading that inside charge.
Now look at that huge run, a big shove, and they're accordioning all the way down the outside line. Everyone is just checking up like insane amounts right there. Again, I think part of this is because of that wind. It's pushing against the drivers as they head down the backstretch. The backstretch is facing southeast The winds are going west to northwest at around 12 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour right now. Caution is out on the speedway.
Braden Whitaker is backwards in the 48. That's in turn 2. That's yellow flag.
No.
Who else just got caught up in that?
Well, Matt Danson is laughing maniacally again.
I just saw somebody peek their head through
Steve
there and
Tucker.
get caught up. Steve Tucker in the 00. Let's look at the replay of the 48 first, and then we'll see what else happened. What on earth? That happened so quick I couldn't even see it.
Yeah, and
That was Steve Tucker.
yeah, it was Steve
Okay,
Tucker.
let's
Danson
really
and Tucker
focus.
are not happy with each other
What
right
happened?
here, but yeah,
K-List?
okay, 40.
K-List.
Oh!
That was an accordion effect. K-List came up, help from Wolsifer behind. Granted, not a lot the 43 could have done in this scenario either, but just shot up the track so quick. Poor Braden Whitaker had no idea that he was even coming up the track.
My goodness. You ever hear of the song No Man's Land?
I don't think so.
The Fairport Convention from 1969. Well, apparently, it's got a rockin' accordion being played in that song. I think these drivers are finding themselves in no man's land here. Oh, man!
He had
I got
no
dizzy.
idea.
I got dizzy just looking at it.
So that is yellow flag number 6 on the night. We had a group of 3 yellows to start the night before lap 20 hit. Then we had a good stretch of green flag run, roughly about 80 laps. Then now, within the last, we're on lap 111, within the last 20, we have had 3 cautions.
Can I tell you why qualifying at this track does not matter?
With all the cautions?
No. The top 5, the highest running, or the highest grid position from the top 5 was 2nd. But 20th, 21st, 25th, and 26th are the other highest running, or highest grid orders for the top 5 right now. Kevin King, 20th, Seth DeMerchant, 21st, Bradley Burke, 25th, Cody Harris, 26th, Agnel Phillip started in 2nd. He's currently sitting in 2nd. But that just kind of goes to show you that it doesn't really matter too much where you start in the race. I mean, yes, of course you want to start up front more, because then you can kind of avoid what's going on in the mid-pack. But if you're good at these tracks, it's not really all up to setting a quick lap time down and qualifying.
So I think the most interesting part of this caution sequence is, of course, they have to either claim the caution or leave it unclaimed for admin review later. Sean Kalis claimed that caution, which I
did see
honestly, as a driver, if I was in Kalis' spot, I wouldn't claim it, because honestly, it was an accordion effect up ahead and just kind of had to check up, then led into somebody hitting me from behind and kind of striking up the racetrack. So he won't leave it up for admin review. He has been given an end of the longest line penalty, and that'll be story over for the 6th caution of the night.
Which also gives him a 1-point penalty as well after this race, when it is put in the post-race report. If you claim a penalty for your first penalty of the race, you get 1 point. If you don't claim it and it's found to be your fault, you get 2 penalty points. So obviously that's something to consider. You know, it promotes safe driving, but it also can lead to you taking a penalty point in fear of getting 2 when you really would have gotten 0. So we're going back to green flag racing with 18 laps to go here, Josh. This is going to be fun.
Not a long time left in this race, so we're going to try and crown a winner here in 18 laps. Green flag back in the air. It's Kevin King that leads the way. Behind, it's DeMerchant and Agnel Phillips side by side. Very familiar names at the front as Harris and Burke round out the top 5 as they race to the back straightaway.
Top 10, 2 by 2 all the way back. Actually, the top 6 kind of made it 2x2, and now the accordion effect takes stronghold as the top line was suddenly gotten to by Kevin King and Agnell Phillip. They were on the bottom. They quickly went up front, up top, and now King leads the top line, DeMerchant on the bottom line. The pushes are coming now. The shoves are going to happen a lot in the corners. We see 3 wide action. Guess who's in the middle of 3 wide right there? You see it. It's the 50 car of Chris Treppa.
Treppa has been the driver tonight that has been the most eager to take it 3 wide. Wonder if he's trying to prove something to all these big names here in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. But at the front, it's Alexander Light and Kevin King now side by side as DeMerchant and Burke power on by in the tandem draft. 16 to go through 1 and 2. New race leader on the Altis Toyota.
Some good racing right here. DeMerchant will have the lead, but Burke gets to his right rear bumper right as they exit turn 2 down the backstretch. It's a quick run into 3 and 4. You're turning left for the majority of this lap. Oh, Burke moves up. King, Phillip, will they save it? No, they wreck Brandon Bowie. The biggest names from this race have wrecked, and King gets just splattered into in the dog leg.
That is the 7th caution of the night. What could have been the big one ends up being kind of the medium one, but 4 of our fastest drivers, and there you see Kevin King. That number 29 is done. It won't be another storybook ending for a 29 car at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. What happens to bring out this yellow flag? That was honestly a quick developing one, and it developed really all through this turns 3 and 4 corner. Light to the back bumper of Burke, but Burke is going to claim that caution.
I think that's the right move there. I think Burke, man, that's a huge hit for Kevin King. That's pretty much race over. But let's just say this. Burke did not know Alexander Light was right down beneath him and tried to come back down to the bottom line, hesitated a bit, and when he tried to save it, it just started pinballing. He started pinballing, bam! Started pinballing up with 3 or 4 cars. My goodness, I'm sorry, I'm laughing from the chat. Some people just asking Matt Danson, what kind of stuff are you from Australia are you on right now?
I'm Logan Woodruff.
Oh.
Glad we're virtual. That would have hurt.
I mean, that would have been a direct replica of what happened. What was it, Daytona or Talladega? I think it was Talladega with Kyle Larson earlier this year, where, I mean, his car was just absolutely railed into. I think it was Stenhouse Jr. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you're recalling what I'm talking about. It forced NASCAR to examine the sidewalls of these cars and the front clips, and it led to a lot of softening of the front clips and some reinforcing of the sides of the cars, especially in the driver's compartment. And those actually safety changes took effect this past weekend at Atlanta.
We'll have another one of these quick yellow flags, and we are getting ready to go back to racing. That time, that laps to go, very quickly running down as we go to 13 laps to go. Will not be, yes it will be, 1 to go. Field will double up. DeMerchant, Light, Davis, Harris, and Johnson, the top 5. Out of those drivers, I believe only Cody Harris has gotten a win this season, and I'm not 100% sure that Harris has won this season. I'm going back to the stat book.
I'm going to the all-time stat book to see right here.
Harris has won 1 race this season.
Okay, there's been 89 Cup Series winners in RSR history. Who has not won from any of these drivers up here? That's a really solid question.
Of course, winningest driver, Andrew Farinage, with 46 wins. But, I mean, we can look all the way down that top 5. I don't believe Alexander Light's gotten a win. Grant Davis possibly looking for win number 1. Sam Nieto's looking for win number 1 of the season. We talked about how poor of a season he's had so far. What if this is going to be the turnaround for the Red Bull number 2? Michael Johnson looking for a win. Eric Papanow involved in a wreck way earlier on tonight on lap number 12. He claimed that yellow flag in the 37 U.S. Army Chevy Camaro. He's back up inside the top 10. 12 to go. Is a caution going to damper our fun, or are we going to go straight on to the finish? Green flag back in the air at Atlanta. 12 laps remaining.
I mean, Alexander Light, he's never won a race. Michael Johnson's never won a race. Winemaster never won a race. Eric Papanow never won a race in RSR Cup competition. Could this be their time to shine? And let's see if Light will do exactly what his namesake has. Cody Harris pushes him to the front on the outside.
Big run now.
Bails.
Goes to the inside. He's not going to help Alexander Light for long. Harris to the race lead. Johnson in tow. Harris looks for win number 2 of the year as he crosses the start-finish line. Still 11 to go. And Alexander Light has help behind. Here comes Winemaster. Treppa back to the middle. 3 wide and 1.
How tight do you think they're gripping their steering wheels right now? Look at all the names involved right here. Nick Mara is back in the competition. My goodness, who's going to win this one?
Cody Harris leads the way. Can this be the win that he is looking for? It'll be win number 2 of the year if he's able to get it. But he's got Johnson behind. DeMerchant, Light, nobody giving an inch in Atlanta. They race back to 1. DeMerchant looks to the outside. No help. Treppa leads that line with behind him. That's the 12 of Ross Cato looking for his first win of the year.
The top 22 cars are in this lead pack. 1 second separates them all. Does anyone have enough time to make a run from the back, or the cars that we see currently on screen and maybe a few in the back? Potentially the only ones that could win this race. Guess who's leading the outside charge at the moment? It's Treppa. He's in the 4th.
Back through 1 and 2 with 9 laps to go. The time running out as quickly as it can. Back to the back straightaway. Treppa with no run on the outside line. Now DeMerchant gonna head up to the outside.
No!
He thinks against it. Back to the bottom with Johnson still in second.
This is just incredible action right now. Cody Harris will bring them down to the line. 8 to go here. Just 8 laps, 12 miles left. And Atlanta, Mara gets squirrely, saves it. Oh, goodness, what a save.
How desperate is Michael Johnson going to be? He has never gotten a top 5 in Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series competition. He is in the catbird seat for a win as DeMerchant looks to the outside again. Same thing in turn 3, decides against it as we're 3 wide. Manazzi Major desperate to the outside. Lariah in tow. 3 by 3, 3 rows deep. There's contact.
They're wrecking
into the wall. The 7 involved, the 23, and the caution is out with 7 to go.
The 7's gonna hit the inside wall as well. What a freaking wild run right there. That was just awesome.
7 laps to go, and we are slow again. Where did this incident start? Bowie came right down into pain. I think we see this so often on these intermediate super speedway or not.
Dog leg.
Thought he was going to go lower in the dog leg and didn't.
You know, it's understandable, right? Like how that happened. You still have fault blame to the party that ends up doing it. I mean, it's 23 causing that wreck right there. It's hard to judge, especially with how much is underneath that red and white line. I mean, that's easily 2.5, 3 lanes of cars can fit there underneath the red and white, which you're not supposed to go underneath. I can see why drivers kind of like get lulled into a false sense of security as well. So here's the question. How many laps are there going to be when we restart? I mean, with these quick cautions, would you expect to see 3 laps to go, maybe?
Might be 4 to go and we go back to green. I would not be shocked if they're getting the 2 to go signal here this time by. Notably, the 93 of Andrew Payne did claim for that last caution. So looks like he might have been under the impression that he didn't really turn too much in that dog leg, or just looking to get that first penalty point out of the way for the Andrew Payne, as Matt Danson will grab the lucky dog. He goes back to the lead lap. And Cody Harris leading the way. I mentioned Michael Johnson winless in RSR competition. I was wondering how desperate he is. He's not going to be leading the outside line with a very aggressive number 50, a Chris Treppa behind, who also has never won in RSR competition, never competed in RSR competition. That outside line is going to be full of some drivers that I think might be, I don't want to say more hungry, maybe as hungry as Cody Harris for wins and a spot in victory lane tonight.
If you're Cody Harris, what lane do you choose?
That's right. He can choose a lane.
Yeah, so, I mean, could it be the potential that he chooses, I mean, he's not going to restart or behind or in front of Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is just going to sit wherever Harris does not choose. So the question is, does Harris want to be in front of Seth Demergent or Chris Treppa? Treppa up to 4th from starting 17th. Of course, Harris started 26th. He's currently in 1st. Do you go with the more aggressive nature that we've seen Treppa just share? I don't think Treppa is any stranger to just doing anything he can do to make it 3 wide at any point. I just don't know what the right move is here. Oh man, this is just wild. Are we at 1 to go here? Harris going on the inside.
Yep. Harris will choose the inside line. This is going to be an exciting restart. Cody Harris leading the way. Michael Johnson on the outside. I did mention winless for Michael Johnson. I'm actually incorrect. He did earn a win in 2022 at Nashville Super Speedway. So he's looking for win number 2, win number 1 of the season to lock him into the playoffs. Cody Harris will be looking for his 3rd all-time win. Dover and Bristol on his win totals. Seth Demergent, another driver that familiar to RSR competition, but admittedly kind of been MIA as of late in that Altus Esports machine. He is going to run for win number 3 and his first in the next gen era, won in 2017 and 2021 at Kansas and Daytona respectively. Chris Treppa never even made a start in RSR competition, and he is going to look for his first race win. Alexander Light as well. We've been seeing a lot of him as of late. A newer driver to RSR, hasn't even finished inside the top 5 in his career. He sits 5th. 3 to go. Do we enter overtime? Do we finish the race here? We're about to find out. Virtual crowd is on their feet. I hope you are at home, because 3 to go. We're back racing with Cody Harris leading the field into 1. Johnson on the outside looking for as much as he can get. But as they go through 1 and 2, it's a big shove to the back bumper of the 28 from Demergent.
Ross Cato gets sucked up right to the 4th car in the inside line. Does he have any options to move into the middle? Does Treppa decide to go into the middle at any single point here? You don't want to go into the sucker hole. You don't want to be the 1 car left without any help. We're coming to 2 to go out of turn 4.
They roar off the corner to the front straightaway. Loose on the outside is Michael Johnson. Does he lead at the line? No,
oh!
He's gonna turn him, and Treppa has wrecked Michael Johnson. They all crash in 1. Dunkelberger's in it. Nick Mara involved as well. And Johnson, looking for race win number 2 of his career, is now going to be heading back to the garage.
Oh my goodness. I don't know, you know, some people are mad at Chris Treppa. Treppa just was going on the outside here. I don't know if I blame this on Treppa. Treppa went to the outside. I don't know if he came down a little bit, but Johnson then came up. I think Treppa was trying to make it 3 wide, and then Johnson didn't realize that and came up just as Treppa went to the outside. What's your take on this, Josh?
2 desperate drivers looking for wins, and I don't want to say not making the right moves, but we do end up with a lot of damaged race cars off of this one. Here's the aftermath of that incident, because it did not end here. Treppa hits Davis, Mara, George, Nieto's involved. That's a good night for Nieto just ended. One more look. You mentioned the accordion effect is just so often at this racetrack. Thomas George.
Oh, goodness. I looked at the replay a little bit closer from my angles. I do not believe Throttle was ever completely clear. He still was kind of in line with Johnson on the outside line. So there is one driver that probably has at fault for that. It would be Throttle. I was trying to just see if there's anything we could say to take him out of fault, but unfortunately, I think that one's mostly an act of aggression that you got to display at this point of the race. Nonetheless, though, maybe not the right moment to pull out a line or even think about pulling out a line, because he was caught in between two lanes right there.
So that notably is caution number 9 of the night. Has gone unclaimed so far. Expecting it to stay unclaimed and go to post-race admin review. However, as we work our way under the yellow flag, top 5 hasn't changed that much. Cody Harris still leads. The Merchant in second. Alexander Light, I mentioned him being pretty desperate for a race win. He is still in contention. The Merchant's in contention for his first next-gen win. Harris is in contention for win number 2. Grant Davis is there. I haven't looked at his stats yet. I'm just wondering what is on deck for him and what is Davis racing for. He's racing for his second all-time win in RSR competition, and also the first since 2020 and the first in the next-gen era.
Oh boy. Kevin King, by the way, in the YouTube chat is saying he's been released from the Infield Care Center. He'll be back next week if medical professionals clear him after that big hit. Give a little... say what you're going to say.
I want to give a shout out to him. I want to give a shout out to everybody else tuning in with us alongside Terry Radford, fresh off the World of Outlaws Late Model Championship Series, because I think they're going to see a great finish here. What is Grant Davis doing? Could he be out?
He is slowing down, but he's picking up speed again.
Is he out? He's on the apron. Picking speed back up. Passing the pace car.
I have no idea what's happening, because if you go into pit road right now, you've passed the pace car.
He's pitting.
But you've passed the pace car.
Well, he's out of the running for this race win no matter what now. We're under overtime. If we get a caution on this 2-to-go lap, we will rack them up again. If we make it to the white flag, race is over. We're back racing from Atlanta. Cody Harris leads the way. Fight down into turn number 1 is with Alexander Light looking for win number 1. He storms into second place.
The first 4 cars all on the inside line. Manazzi Major trying to make that 5 cars on the inside line. He goes up high. Roscato couldn't block him off. To Merchant going up high as well. They're wrecking again.
Wrecking the back. That's a yellow flag. Lap 131, and we're back under the yellow. Eric Papanow is in that one.
Oh boy, Carl Poehler may have been at fault for that. We'll see once we go to the replay, and I think that's exactly what happened. Dancing again, laughing maniacally on the radio. It's hilarious. But anyway,
Poehler hit the 79, and that went into Papanow.
Yeah.
Tucker involved. That's Fetter Place on the inside as well. I want another angle just because that was the definition of just one hit leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Because here's Poehler. They stack up for a moment. Why did Poehler go down to the inside like that? Combined, they met in the middle. They met in the middle. Poehler will claim it, but they met in the middle.
I think Poehler came down a little bit more than the 79, I think it was, came up. Well, that's probably, I mean, Poehler claimed it, so avoids getting a potential 2-point thing, but I could see that being looked at multiple ways. So we're getting another overtime attempt. You said we have 3. This is going to be the second try here. And this is what I was saying about how important it was to potentially get that tank full not too long ago. So it's a 2-lap shootout. Leader takes the white flag, of course. The next flag will be checkered. We have one more possibility of having a caution and going back on the restart. Now, Grant Davis, I'm still confused on what he did coming down the pits. And upon replay, he got 4 tires and some damage repaired. And he's a lap down. I don't know.
I am as confused as you are on what Grant Davis did there, but
He's still doing it.
he's out of the running for the win, and we can barely focus on what's happening at the front of the field. So I'm not even going to bother trying to figure out what's happening with Grant Davis, who's now 2 laps down in 23rd. Nazi Major's back up in the front. I don't know what happened to him throughout this entire caution stretch, but now all of a sudden he's back in the running for the win. And he'll be on the outside, second row. Harris chooses the inside again. DeMerchant goes back up top for the second overtime restart.
So that's an interesting call. DeMerchant's been very aggressive. Harris has been strong being pushed. Light has been pushing for the majority of this race. I don't know how Light is if he gets in front, how he is being pushed. But Nazi Major, how he's still in this race without any damage really is really impressive. That's pretty outstanding. Imagine that Sprite machine in victory lane.
I don't know if there's anyone as desperate at the front. Maybe Alexander Light's sharing the same feeling inside on that second row. But 3 top 5s all time from a Nazi Major. They're looking at a 4th tonight and maybe even a 1st win. The Merchant looking for win number 2. Alexander Light looks for win number 1 in top 5, number 1 on the inside line. Still have one more attempt at an overtime restart. If it comes to that, will we make it around to the white flag on this restart? Get back on your feet at home, because it's about to go down. It's go time in the Geico restart zone. Cody Harris gets the big jump again on the inside line. He'll cover off DeMerchant. That'll open up the inside for Alexander Light. Everyone on the outside line now, as Light will lead the charge on the inside. Jared Weinmaster in tow through 2.
Don't forget about Ross Cato, currently 3rd in line on the inside. He has 170 starts now, 171, and he's never won a race. It's the most races without a win in RSR Cup Series history. Could he get his first and his 171st?
It's going to be white flag this time by Harris leads the way. He has Seth DeMerchant all over his back bumper. We do get to the white flag. This race is official as the field goes back through 1 and 2. DeMerchant's all over the back bumper of Cody Harris. He's trying to pull away in the tandem draft. Is this what Seth DeMerchant's trying to do to get by the 28? He leaves Alexander Light leading the pack from there. Can Light get a run? He's going to stretch his feet out at the front of the field. DeMerchant still all over Harris to the checkered flag. Out of 4, they wreck behind. Harris is wrecking. Who has won the race? DeMerchant and Light side by side. DeMerchant, I think, has won that race by less than a 10th.
68 thousandths of a second. And I'll be honest, man, DeMerchant, there was some contact with Harris at the end. I'd like to see a replay there. Oh boy.
Well, there's the finish line shot. DeMerchant winning by half a car over Alexander Light. Here's the run through 3 and 4. We'll look back at that incident in a moment that happened back there. That's Weinmaster, Cato, all stacking up. That was a little bit of contact. It's not going to be a unanimous one, but he got to the checkered flag first. He will get the win. William Schmidt in the 79 ended up 4th, by the way. But this was a massive stack up here. I'm trying to find even where Ross Cato ended up. He ended up 17th. That was contact with Winemaster and up into the pack. That was everybody back from there. That was everybody. I was gonna say near everybody. It was everybody.
Wow. It's gonna be, look at that, just running through. Was that Bradley Burke? Just running through at the end, full steam ahead. I mean, at this point, you know, it's once you cross the line, it doesn't really matter anymore. Except there still are incident points being counted.
I'm insanely curious at how William Schmidt ended up getting through this. So let's find out. He parted the seas. Everybody wrecked and they went up the track. Schmidt was on the bottom. Wrecks across the line, but he got his 4th place.
That is incredible. Wow. That's, I don't even know what to say.
Well, that's DeMerchant with a race win. That was one of the wildest real sim racing finishes I think ever. I reached Mariah Carey levels on my voice, and we look at your full finishing results with DeMerchant winning. Alexander Light, don't take anything away from that driver. First top 5 of his real sim racing career. First time we're going to talk to him on the podium. And oh, by the way, he's the first one in the interview waiting room as well. Great job from the 8 tonight. Cody Harris will finish in 3rd. We'll talk to all 3 of those drivers in a moment. William Schmidt in 4th. Nick Mara rounds out the top 5. Brandon Bowie, Sean Kalis, Andrew Payne, Matt Danson, and Steve Durham going to round out the top 10 on the finishing order.
Matt Danson, what are you doing in the top 10? That's insane. Steve Tucker, what are you doing up there? In 11th, Eric Papineau in 12th, Brett Punkari in 13th, Brandon Fetter place. Continue going down the order. Gregory Shalmanazzi, Major. Oh, he had a chance there. So did Ross Cato, Jaron Winemaster, Michael Johnson, and Chris Treppa, your top 20.
Back from there, it was Michael Araya, Kyle Trudell, Richard Wolsifer, all finishing 1 lap down. Brian Dixon, Bradley Burke, Grant Davis, Agnell Phillip, Carl Pooler, Thomas George, Sam Nieto, all caught up in incidents before that final lap fiasco. And it was Woodruff, Dunkelberger, Mills, King, Whitaker, Stanford, Morano, and Kaczynski that rounded out that entire field of drivers. Let's all take a collective exhale. Let's just look back again at what happened, because that was, first of all, the wreck behind, okay, we had a top 3 running for the win. Harris getting turned down into the apron. Did not have that one on my bingo card.
I didn't have most of that race on my bingo card.
Nope.
Actually, I did have the over on the cautions. That came to fruition.
Huh. Well, we have Cody Harris ready and standing by to speak to us here in the broadcast booth. So I think we're going to go ahead, get started with him here in the post-race show and go from there. And we'll talk to your driver of the number 28. That is Cody Harris. And Harris will join us up here in the broadcast booth. And Cody, that run to the finish, I know you've got to be feeling a lot of feelings after that one. You're on your soapbox here. How did that one feel?
It was a good race. I mean, that's just kind of super speedway racing at the end. It was good to have a shot. Looking at it with Seth, we were talking before we got in here, and it was a weird sort of net code because where he was on my bumper, it spun me a really weird way. It just kind of like launched me to the left for whatever reason. Otherwise, we'd have had a good race to the line. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Throughout that race, even, it was kind of an uphill battle for you. You ended up starting back in 26th. You made your way up into the front, commanded that race throughout the, I think the last 30 laps, which in that combined 30 laps was 6 cautions. So you were able to pace the field a lot at the front. But overall, coming at it tonight, you didn't get that second race win, or that second race win of the season. But heading into the playoffs, are you feeling a little bit more confident and getting a little bit more points under your belt?
Yeah, hoping to lock up P2 in the regular season standings. Agnell's pretty far out there, but still some racing left. Feel like I've got good speed every week. The results don't always show it with Rex, but had a good race last week and had a good one again this week.
New Hampshire next week. Can you get that race win, make it 2 on the season?
I'd like to try. I usually do pretty well with flat tracks like that with some braking, non-typical 1.5 miles. So mile track like that should be hopefully pretty good for me.
Congratulations on your 3rd place finish tonight, Cody. Anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just shout out to the guys I've been working with on the Road to Pro side of things. That's going pretty well. And yeah, all my friends and family that watch every week, and you guys putting this on. It's a lot of fun.
And thank you very much for joining us again here in the broadcast booth. That's Cody Harris walking away with his 3rd place finish tonight. And we'll transfer over, Dylan, to a driver that is first time hearing from here in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series on RaceSpotTV. You're standing by with 2nd place finisher, best finish ever in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. It's Alexander Light.
And Alexander Light was just 68 thousandths away from getting his first victory as well. Didn't happen this time. Do you feel like you could have done anything in that last corner differently?
Not too sure I really could have. I looked back over the replay. It just was so close between the two of them. They had one heck of a run around the front stretch to get them launched through turns 1 and 2. I was just trying to play catch up. I was hoping that Ross was going to be behind me, pushing me a little bit harder. If I had him, maybe we could have done something to get around at the front. When I saw them make contact and I saw Cody slide, I was like, maybe I can gun it and maybe I'm going to have the gap, but unfortunately it didn't slow Seth down enough.
So I know that we're talking about potentially getting that win, but to finish as high as you did, to run as well as you did at this track, it really showed the skill you possess. Just your feelings after that one. You seem happy. You seem excited.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised I did not wake up my sleeping baby that's upstairs above me. Because after I won, I screamed so loud. I was so not won, 2nd place. Sorry, I was so excited.
Hey, it feels like
a win. It does. It really feels like a win. Because Daytona I didn't have as much luck, but Dega was the top 10 for me. And here at Atlanta, I was kind of expecting to be somewhere in the mid pack, but we ran up front most of the day. It feels really, really good. Usually these super speedways, I can run up front and then something happens. We got lucky with a couple incidents that happened around us. Like I've apologized to Bradley Burke about 100 times now. It feels like that I ended up getting into him. It seemed like he was going high, but it is what it is. It's a racing deal. But it feels just amazing to be where we're at for not having a great season. I've had a lot of unfortunate finishes.
Well, Alex, you know just as well as anyone that Discord is going to be lighting up right now with a lot of people apologizing and a lot of people not apologizing to a lot of other people. So have fun going through that entire thing. Congrats again on the 2nd place. Hope to see you running up top there at New Hampshire next week.
Thanks so much, boys. We'll see you there.
All right, Josh. We got one more person to talk to. I think you want to take that person and ask him how it went tonight.
Well, Seth DeMerchant joins us here in the broadcast booth. And first of all, Seth, congratulations. First win for you in the next-gen era of racing in Real Sim Racing. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, that run to the finish. What was your thoughts on that contact with Cody Harris? Heard a little bit of what you guys talked about beforehand, but what was your POV of that one?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I pulled out, obviously, the side draft, and we were running really tight, and just some, like, weird netcode contact. Like, I definitely hit him a little bit, but the way his car spins is not how I feel like should have happened. So, you know, me and Cody talked about it. I don't know. Like, obviously, that's not how I want to win the race. Running hard there with Cody all race. Like, we were having a hell of a race, and I don't know.
Started 21st, marched your way up through the field through that, and what kind of gave you that momentum to race your way up towards the front? Was it the number of cautions that we had that was kind of just etching off drivers and you were able to climb up? Did you have speed in that car? What was it in that Altus Esports Toyota Camry?
Just finding the right people to work with. You know, I found myself around Kevin King, and we kind of just worked together to try to get to the front and, you know, just get ahead of the mess for when they did start wrecking. And I think we had a really good pit cycle, and it cycled us out to the top 4, and it was able to just put ourselves in good position. Kevin unfortunately got killed on one of the restarts, and you know I was kind of out there by myself there at the end. So
I know you've been starting to slowly join us back here on Monday nights in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. You are inside that top 25. You are eligible to be in the playoffs. One win gets you in. Where are you going to look for that win?
I mean, I'm pretty good at New Hampshire, so we'll see if we can win again next week.
We'll put it down. I'll put you in my predictions to win in New Hampshire. I'm excited to see what you're going to do in that Toyota. But Seth DeMerchant, first place for you tonight. Anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
Just you guys for broadcasting, Evan for putting the league on, and Matt Danson for getting me to show up.
Well, we'll talk to your Altus Esports teammate here in a moment, but congratulations to you, Seth, on yet another victory in the first of your next-gen career in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series.
Thanks.
And from one Altus Esports driver to another, Dylan, we heard that Matt Danson has a couple of things to say. You're trackside with the Australian.
Yes, don't make us regret this, Matt.
Never.
Your thoughts on the entire race, because I swear I have no idea how you got a top 10 from that, especially because I thought you would have used all your energy laughing on the radio comms.
I definitely had a good time. Chicago was a lot of fun, beating and banging with Merch and Agnall and pretty much anyone that came near me. And you know, tonight was somewhat similar. Started a bit scruffy. Started from the pit lane with Steve Durham. Shout out to him for his career night, P10. And yeah, we just we battled on through adversity. And if the cards had fallen right, we would have come out with a P5 right at the end there. But Nick Mara, what more can you say? P5, I love to see it. I think there was some good storylines throughout. A couple of turkeys that maybe need to go back to the drawing board. But shout out Steve Tucker as well. He was getting stuck into me all race. But hang on, where did he finish? Where was
Steve finished, I think, in 11th.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad from Steve. He got the pole. Holy moly! What happened? Must have been a big gust of wind.
Hey, Steve Durham got the other side of the big gust of wind from 38th to 10th right there.
That's true. But no, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, you heard me cackling away. Probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen was who was it? Wolcifer, the 56, I think. I gave him a bump halfway down the backstretch, and he was fighting that thing all the way. Oh, he was fighting for his life all the way into the corner and killed the other guy. It was I don't think I've ever laughed quite so hard. Other than my man Steve Tucker when he shouted me out for my skills, only for him to wreck himself into the wall under yellow immediately after. It's the racing gods. They often do that to you.
Well, the racing gods definitely have a say in how these races go. Matt, always appreciate the conversation and the entertainment factor, of course, both in the race and post-race.
Always. I should be an in-race reporter.
I wonder
Yes.
if you... Hey, listen, I'm just saying, I've got a lot of experience doing that. I may not have said all the right words and talked about the car the right way when I was in the car. I think you're more qualified.
You are my favorite in-race reporter.
Because I just say the exact opposite of what's actually happening.
pretty much. But you said
I've
with
learned.
passion
I
and conviction.
I do.
And that's
and I did.
what's most important. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you say something with conviction, someone will believe you're correct. That's politics, I think. But anyway, we're going away from that. Matt Danson, P9, well done, my Aussie friend.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Oh, I always love talking about. My goodness. So, yeah, big shout out to Nick Barra finishing in the top 5. He really hung on there at the end. He went from the back of the field all the way up to front. Always love seeing him perform well. He's a great dude. So it just some really, really nice storylines like Matt was talking about.
William Schmidt in 4th, Alexander Light in 2nd. A lot of drivers that we have not seen inside that top 5 end up finishing in there tonight. But 1 week from now, we go from one of the fastest tracks in NASCAR to honestly one of the slowest, but also one of the most technical in the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Dylan, seems like New Hampshire, when it comes around in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, always has some fireworks that I personally don't think it has in the real world.
Oh, I love going to the Magic Mile, both in sim, and I'm thinking I'm going to love it this weekend in real life. It's one of those tracks that you don't get that style of racing anywhere else, where maybe the Milwaukee Mile, but it's almost uncomparable, right? It's that flat 180-degree corners on each end. And, you know, in the real world, they're going to have rain tires on this weekend, most likely. And sim, of course, not yet. You know, we'll have to see what halfway is in sim, you know?
We'll have to see what halfway really does mean in sim. But that is going to do it for our coverage here tonight of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. And on behalf of our entire team and on the admin team at Real Sim Racing and on behalf of everybody at RaceSpotTV and for our broadcast team tonight, alongside me, Dylan Coyle, I have been your host, Joshua Lee. Congratulations to Seth DeMerchant on winning again in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series. We'll see you in 1 week's time when we go racing from the Magic Mile. But for now, we say good night from virtual Hampton, Georgia.
Steady like a heartbeat, but these notes turn dead.